Hey tribe, it's me Lucia here with Sanctified Supply Company, and I'm coming at you with a new video. So today's video is brought to you by a few of our amazing customers who have requested something called a Boonie Hat. So they were wondering if I could do the shema on the underbill of a Boonie Hat, right? And at first, to be honest, it kind of just sounded silly to me. I was like, who wears Boonie Hats? Like, why would you want that? And then I started looking into it, started doing a little bit of research, and then I realized, I should probably get a Boonie Hat. They're pretty awesome, and you're gonna want one too. You're kind of like wondering too, what's the deal with Boonie Hats, or just wanna do a little history sesh? Without further ado, let's jump into the video. So this actual item has a ton of rich history and heritage in our country. It's definitely an iconic piece of headwear. This one, I think I got it like an army surplus store back when we lived in Oregon, and it's tiny. They're pretty awesome, and there's some different things you're gonna need to know about when you're purchasing a Boonie Hat, things you're gonna wanna look for, so I'll fill you in. Now, after talking about the Boonie Hat and suggesting it to our Patreons, one of our amazing patrons who has worked in the service and is somebody we highly respect and admire, he suggested that we get a Rip Stomp Boonie Hat. That's good to know. I wasn't exactly sure, and the more I dug, the more I realized that these things were used not only by special forces, but all the other branches of military. You know, the Navy, the Army, the Marines. From what I could tell, all the different branches issue these for different purposes, and there's certain facets of the hat that help you when you're in training. Some branches will issue a Boonie Hat instead of a helmet if it's really hot, since they were in sweltering conditions. And honestly, the more it described the climates that this hat was used in, the more I realized, being in the Ozarks, it's very bushy here. It's not like the PNW where you have space between your trees and you can hide between them and stuff. We're in the bush, we're in the thick, and I've climbed through these Ozarks. I've gone through the bush here, and there's so many spiders. So you're gonna wanna make sure when you get a Boonie Hat that it has the loopholes so that you can stick branches in it. That way, if you're in the bush, you can go incognito, you know. It's got the vents on each side. There's 4 vents total, and that just ensures that you have good airflow. You don't want to be overheating. And it's also going to have a strap, and depending on what branch they were in the military, they would issue it either forward or backward. Some branches would allow you to fold up in the back or the front, and it also kind of depended on what the mission was and what they were doing. But as far as I could tell, this has been a rich asset in our military history since Vietnam, when it was issued. Essentially, the U.S. Army began issuing these Boonie Hats regularly, and of course they're going to be more comfortable. They're not as heavy and clunky as a helmet would be, and they offer more breathability than a baseball cap. Definitely more shade from all ends, keeping you more comfortable. And yeah, nobody wants to be hot and miserable while trying to save the country. Nobody wants to do that. I was quite surprised when trying to climb through the chicken-infested bushes here in the Ozarks. There are so many giant spiders. I actually, coming into the print shop, walked into one of the largest spider webs I've ever seen in my life. And I can only imagine the idea of a giant tarantula dropping in the nape of your neck as you're trying to trudge through jungle. So having something that is a full brim all the way around, covering your back of your neck and your face from sun, shade, rain, humidity, and spiders would be ideal, right? When can you wear the Boonie Hat in the Army? The Boonie Hat can be worn when the commanding officer gives permission, but generally it is acceptable to wear one in a hot weather environment if a helmet must come off and a patrol cap is unsuitable. So that's what I looked up. That's from ufpro.com. Talking about the different types of military hats, and that kind of makes sense to me. I don't know if you're in the military and you know way more about this than I do. Please, by all means, go ahead and correct me. You say whatever you want in the comment section. Just from the interwebs, what I've collected as far as data goes, and to me, just like common sense wise, if you're in a humid, condition and you have to go and be in the jungle, you would want one of these. And to be honest, I felt so stupid and ignorant thinking, why would anybody want one of those? And then I looked into it and I realized, I was like, man, where do we find one? I need to go get like the best quality Boonie hat I can get my hands on. They are a must in my opinion now. It's also an essential piece of clothing while in the mission field. And when you're deployed to somewhere like Vietnam or somewhere where it's hot and humid, climate regions, boonies work best compared to helmets, because like if you had to wear a hard, sweaty helmet, you would definitely pick this over that. They're more comfortable, less heavy, and provide protection from excess sunlight and rain. It is not unusual to find ordinary citizens wearing boonies for the same reasons, especially those touring hot and humid regions. So, pre-Vietnam War and the history and the origins of the Boonie hat and how it kind of became what it is today, which is very iconic. You actually see this worn by all kinds of people, not just military. The origin of the actual design, hard to pinpoint. We don't know exactly because it kind of has evolved over time. And like a lot of things within different occupations, it kind of just depends on what you need and where you are and how to best assist the problem, right? One could go back to fisherman hats that called bucket hats, which were made of wool and tweed and bore a faint resemblance of the modern boonie. In the late 1930s, the U.S. military issued hats with a wide brim that went all the way around the head, first made of denim and later heritage-born twill. These were nicknamed Daisy May hats, after a comic strip character of the time. It too somewhat resembled what we know today as a boonie hat. But the U.S. troops weren't alone with issuing these types of hats. The British Commonwealth and its forces had their own hot climate uniform that came from a bush hat. This hat was widely used by the Commonwealth forces during World War II. So it slowly evolved in a way, the materials, and also, like I said, I don't think it was really until Vietnam that they were like, hey, it's hot and humid and there's a lot of sun. Let's find something lightweight besides helmets that our soldiers can wear. That was when they officiated the Boonie hat. So pre-Boonie hats, the Australians also had a version of this hat, and it was called the giggle hats because of the shorter brim and the more or less ridiculous look. Already then, the design was very popular among the troops because of its comfort and practical use in warmer climates. So during this time, Vietnam is when it really started getting issued because, like I said, they're trying to hunker down through the jungle. But it has been officiated that it was in 1967 the U.S. military began issuing the Boonie hats on a regular basis, officially designating them in typical military nomenclature as hat jungle with insect net, paving the road to the Boonie's success. Because who wants to wear anything else besides a sun hat when you are in the very hot jungle? I don't want to wear anything else. This would be ideal. Okay, and so there also is a lot of speculation about how it got its name. Some speculate that the boonie is referred to the Tagalog word boondock, which means mountain, which totally not to be off subject. But my grandma, when I was a little kid, I had a CD player my mom bought me. It was purple. And my grandma had those little cassette tapes. Remember those? And I would listen to them all the time. And there was one song, and it was like, down in the boondocks, down in the boondocks, I love her, she loves me, but I don't fit in her society. Lord have mercy on the boy from down in the boondocks. And then she had the other one, which was Yellow Mellow, and I loved those. So that very well could be where it came from, meaning mountain. The term later evolved into the description of anything coming out of the wilderness area and was eventually shortened to boonie, a rather fitting name given to Vietnam's spectrum of landscape, which ranges from mountains, terrain, to jungle deltas. Boonie hats went on to become a standard item and were part of all major conflicts in hot jungle climates. Filled by many different nations and non-state actors, they can be seen in photographs taken by the Gulf Wars and the war in Afghanistan. Boonies are now so common, it's hard to imagine a time when they weren't worn by the forces somewhere. So another thing that they liked about the U.S. military and stuff liked about the Boonie hat is that it had a concealability to it. It wasn't shaped like a traditional helmet, and also having the loops with the branches coming out of it. Some people did complain about the brim being so long that when it would get wet, it would get soggy and it would sink down and mess with the view of the soldier. So then they started designing ones with shorter brims called the Recce Boonie. Recce, R-E-C-C-E Boonie. However you say that. So with the military enforcing these hats, there was also a lot of modifications, and that was why they liked it. There were some cases where they would put bright orange patches in here so that you could flag down aircrafts. There was other ones that would shorten the brim or modify the brim or even put wires in the brim so that you could adjust it how you wanted it to. And I thought that was really cool because depending on what you needed, you know, you could have a custom version of what you wanted, and that was pretty cool. I liked that. I'm sure not every branch let you do that, but certain see a need, fill a need is how I kind of see it as far as it was described. Pretty awesome hat. I thought these, I really, prior to this study, thought these were only used for fishing. I had no idea. That's my ignorance. So another thing we're wanting to do when we do provide these on the website, that light, is to have somebody who has been in the field, somebody who is very well knowledgeable in these sorts of things, find us the best possible option. That way you guys know that you're getting a good quality Boonie hat. Boonie hats will continue to be issued to our military troops, and I think it's really cool that this item has so much heritage and history to it. I do think it is the item that everybody should have, especially if you're out here in the woods. A really smart thing to just put in your bag or even just have it for camping and fishing. It is definitely a necessity and a staple. Or if you're like me and like to climb through the bush, it's a must-have. I will let you guys know when they're available on the website. But I will find really nice military-approved Boonie hats with the shema on them. They're coming, you guys. We're bringing them. So I hope that you really enjoyed this video and had fun with me researching and looking into Boonie hats. From my brief research, I have a whole lot of respect for this hat, and I am really thankful that we've had so many of you guys request such amazing ideas. I apologize for my ignorance. I am learning as I go, and am really thankful I get to learn from you guys. So if you have any other suggestions out there that we haven't considered or thought of, always email us, admin@sanctifiedsupplyco.com. We'd love to talk to you. I hope you guys are doing well. If you like this video, help us get it to others by recommending it. You can hit the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already. We love you. We'll talk to you again later. Shalom.